I think it was on your website, you revealed that when you first came into Formula One, you were a little uncomfortable about race, and you kind of wanted to downplay the fact that you were the first black Formula One driver, whereas now you've really embraced it. Explain that change of mindset.
I don't know, I think, well, now when I arrive at the race, I don't think, oh, hey, we're the only black people here.
Right.
I never ever did that. But I think just getting older and understanding what it actually, that it actually is actually something, and embracing that and using that is actually a real positive. I love that I turn up and I'm different to everyone else. All the other drivers stick out like a sore thumb compared to the other drivers in some ways, and I like that, and seeing it as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. And I think as a kid, with difficulties that you face, whether it be racism, whether it be those hard times, I laugh upon it now. I don't know if you've seen Cool Runnings, like my favorite movie.
Right.
I love when they arrive the first time on the top of the hill and they pull out their crappy sled, which is exactly the same as me and my dad arriving at the track. Everyone else has got their professional equipment, and me and my dad turn up with our crap car and our crap go-kart and in these scruffy clothes. And it's like everyone stops, and that's how it is in Cool Runnings. The whole paddock stopped to see what they're doing here. And then they went and knocked everyone dead, and that's what we did.
How much do you think your dad struggled early on when he was talking to potential sponsors because of race?
I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but if I imagine it, and I imagine my dad going into these meetings and saying, how would you like to support the first black Formula One driver? And they'll be like, yeah, right, And we didn't get a lot of support, but those who did, I'm very, very grateful to. People sponsored us with free tires, fuel, those different things, and which made a huge impact for us because we didn't have any money. My dad spent his life savings, him and my stepmom's life saving in the first year.
And then some.
Yeah, and remortgaged the house, God knows how many times or the apartment so many times to get us to the race weekends. And so, but I can only, it's difficult to imagine, because he would have protected me from the difficulties that he was facing, because he wouldn't want me to see those things. But I can only imagine how hard it was for him, and I am told by my stepmom and my mum of just how difficult times sometimes he was faced with, and that what makes me even more proud of him.
Tell about the moment not too long ago. You're in New York City, an African-American woman comes up to you and shows you a picture of her 9-year-old son.
Yeah, that was I was at the Met, the AmFAR Gala. And yeah, I think she's this black supermodel, I think she was a model, came rushing over to me and she's like, oh my God, my son's racing cars and he wants to be you, and can you follow him? So I followed him on Instagram, and it was kind of cool because growing up from 8 to actually to even now, I've never raced against and never ever seen another black family racing. Is where and even in all the series, in all the different classes, there was never another black family on the race weekend. So to now see that Asian kids, black kids, different ethnicities are now coming in, I feel kind of proud that we perhaps were a part of helping break that mold, knocking that wall down, and now other people from different walks of life are kind of getting into sport. So it's not as big as what Tiger did or the Williams sisters did, but hopefully in our own little way it's
But why isn't it?
I don't know, I'm just saying,
Right.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Right.
But I think it's kind of cool that hopefully we were part of helping break that mold. And so I was very, very proud when she came over, and I was like, I can't believe it, see the picture of this little kid who looks just like how I looked with the little helmet, which is sitting on the back of the top seat because it's so small, can't barely see over the steering wheel, and one day wanted to be here doing what I do.
First European races, you're in Italy and competing among other people against your current Formula One teammate, Nico Rosberg. And after the race, his dad, who's Formula One champion, comes up and congratulates you on winning the race. How close did you and Nico become after that?
I mean, I started racing against Nico in 1996, 97, and you know, he was the golden child when I moved to Italy to race. I was this unknown kid, and Nico was the golden child there because, you know, naturally being a Formula One world champion's son, he was in the spotlight. Everyone was focused on him, and he had the best of everything with the top team. And then come along, and I beat him in my first race, which was amazing. And our relationship started from there. And then we were teammates a few years later on, which we traveled everywhere together. Like, you know, we didn't really take flights traveling around Italy, obviously, so we were always in the car. So many jokes, movies, fun things that we did along the way. And yeah, and then when we got obviously older, when we moved into cars, he went to Formula BMWs in like Europe or in Germany, and I went to UK to do British Formula Renault. And then we didn't speak for probably a couple of years, and then came back into, well, eventually we got to Formula One, so.
What's kind of unique and unusual about Formula One is your teammate is also,
Not your
in
teammate.
this case, right, not your teammate or your greatest rival and one of the guys you're trying to beat each week. So how strange is that dynamic? And maybe
yeah.
less strange because you're in it, but from...
No, from the outside, it's contradictory to really what, because obviously, so we have the two championships within the one kind of championship battle, and one's the drivers' championship and the other's the team constructors' championship. The team mostly cares about the constructors' championship because that's what sells cars. So that's really where we both come in as teammates. We've both got to score points. You know, you can't have one guy finishing first and one guy finishing 10th. You both need to score, particularly when you're up against Ferrari, who are banking points as well. So that's our core job. And then individually, we want to be the first. We want to be the one that's ahead. And you're always based off your teammate because they're in the same equipment as you. So it actually works out really well, and having that intense battle inside the team has to be really carefully managed by by the management. But they do a great job in this team. So, you know, and as me and Nico get older and older, we get used to each other's ways, and you know, we've had lots of ups and downs, but you know, really maturing a lot in how we negotiate that battle.
Is it possible or even healthy to be as close to friends as you guys might have been back in the younger days?
Well, it's not possible, because I don't think it's possible. I mean, we have complete different lives. We do different things. Nico's married with a kid and grew up in a lot different area than I did, and you know, he's a lot different than he was when we were, you know, back then. The reason we got on so well is because I was crazy and he happened to do some of the crazy things that I did too, so we kind of got along well. And now he doesn't do any of those crazy things that I do, and I still do all those crazy things. So naturally we've gone different ways with different dynamics, but you know, we've got our core group of friends each, and with the intensity of a battle like we are having, it's impossable to have that relation. You can't be friends. Yeah, win the world championship, no problem, buddy. That's not how it
Right.
goes. You know, like, you know, winning the championship, that's all that matters.
An interview your friend Beyonce did not too long ago with Oprah, and Beyonce, who was famously managed by her father for a long time, was telling Oprah about how, you know, she knew for a while she was ready to cut professional ties with her father, but it took a long time from when she first realized that to building up the courage to actually doing it.
Yeah.
How similar was it for you?
Exactly the same. Yeah. I mean, it is very, very tough, and you build that relationship with that person. They work from the ground up. They create something from nothing, and it's very hard for a parent to let go. It's so hard for the parent to let go and realize that they've succeeded, and then, you know, now it's time to let them fly, and you know, they've got the wings. It's time to let them fly on their own. I think but to be able to get to that point and tell your parent that, and there's no really right way of doing it. You know,
How do you do it?
Either way, it's gonna be an upset experience. It's gonna be emotional one way or another. If it's not done right, it can be so detrimental to that relationship. And so I think probably for Beyonce and whoever other sportsmen who've had those kind of relationships, that step of not wanting to break that person's heart because they've helped you get to where you are and have the wonderful life that you now have, to be able to tell them that I really want to start making decisions for myself. I need to learn, make my own mistakes and learn from those kind of things. That's like the hardest thing to do. I think it just got too intense at one point, and I was like, I want to go for a beer with you. I don't want to have to talk about business. I don't want to talk about business ever anymore. I want it to be lighthearted. I don't want us to have a joke. I want us to party. I want us to get to a point where it's just a great father-son relationship. Because when it's business involved, it's stressful.
What was involved with getting from the point of, cutting the professional ties to where you actually wanted the relationship to get to?
Well, I'm still working on getting a relationship to where I wanted to get to, so it's taken a long time. And I guess really just getting on with it. And I mean, you got to make the decision, you got to go with it, and try then pick up the pieces afterwards. And you never know how long that's going to take. But I definitely am really happy where I am today. I'm more proud of the decisions that I've made to be where I am today, and naturally I owe who I am today and what I've achieved today to my family. And the fact is they instill good values in me and help me. The decisions I make today are based on all these experiences I saw my dad do, and I use that wise mental head that he helped put on my shoulders to be here today and have those championships.
Your dad said to you when you were a young boy growing up, if you work hard in school, he'll support your racing career. And what's unique about your situation growing up is you guys didn't have a lot of money, and Formula One's a sport where nepotism's common. You generally have to have a lot of money to have success, and your situation was anything but that. What do you remember from him holding 3 jobs growing up, trying to make ends meet?
I just remember my dad not really getting a lot of sleep. I remember going on errands with him where he'd go and put, I'd be sitting in in the back seat of the car with this big solid bit of wood with for sale signs for houses. And
because he got paid per sign, right?
Yeah, it was like £15 or £10 or something like that, so we'd go around and go and drive to all these houses overnight and be putting up for sale signs and vending machine. The dude just doing whatever he could to make a little bit of money to be able to. And then, once he'd finished his day job, then doing that, then he'd be in the garage all night, cleaning, preparing my car, my go-kart, getting it all ready for the next race. It was beautiful to see, and there was some of the greatest moments was sitting in the garage and just watching him work, and at some point, him let me be a part of it. And then that journey we took when we get to the racetrack where we were the kind of uninvited guests and not particularly always welcomed. And we just, me and him just kept our head down, and we'd be in the back of our little box trailer with a little gas heater and a cup of noodle soup and some bacon sandwiches, because my stepmom was really good at making those for us. And we just looked like we kind of looked a bit like peasants, but we got out there and I thrashed this old crappy cart round and we beat people. And we would leave feeling just full of energy, full of great achievement, and that was really what it was about. It wasn't about, hey, we want to be we want to be Formula One world champions. That's not what we got into it for. We got into it because it was something for my dad to do with me, and vice versa, and a way in which we could
race early on in your Formula One career in Fiji, where I think something, just a bad race. And the article read that after the race, you basically stayed in your hotel for 3 days straight.
Yeah.
How much would you used to beat yourself up when things wouldn't go well?
An insane amount, which it was unhealthy.
Like, what would you be doing in the hotel for the 3 days
I
after
literally,
the
I
race?
mean, I remember after that race, I mean, I would just have like the biggest headache and just like you're under the biggest dark cloud. And I was in my hotel room for 3 days. I didn't leave my hotel. I didn't eat, hardly ate. I just stayed in silence. And I guess just trying to wiggle my way out of this negative headspace. Anyways, I came back and won the next race. So, but the point is, I think in life, and I'm sure many people do it, you know, where you hold on to things, you dwell on things. Mm-hmm. And at the time in my life, I was just so stubborn and so set in my ways that I couldn't get past things. So sometimes it would take days, weeks to get past failure. Because you know what it is, you train so hard, you've done it a million times, you know, that corner, and then you make a mistake or something like that. You know, you've done your due diligence time and time and time again, and then you still make that mistake. So it's just not being able to forgive yourself. So I think matured a huge amount, so that it takes me no time at all to get past things, and that's been a huge release, and it's helped me raise my level again by quite some way, I think.
How competitive are you?
I'm as competitive as anyone I know. I think I like to think that I'm the most competitive person I know in everything I do. But I think it's different to when I was younger. When I was younger, there's no losing. You know, I would never think that losing was acceptable, but I am now, being older, I understand that losing is actually a part of it. Losing is actually what's helped me be the driver I am today. Those lows make the highs even higher. Those difficulties that you go through, the character building process are necessities. And so I actually really enjoy the times that I don't succeed, because I feel like I grow.
You really enjoyed in the moment, or looking
no,
back?
Afterwards.
Okay.
You know, I love, for example, the weekend I came third, and at the time I was fairly chilled about it. Next day, you feel that churn in your gut, and you go and train, and you use that energy, and you grow, and you figure out ways. Like, for example, today we're going to sit down and figure out how we fix that, and also how you handle it in that low moment is what is most important. You know, winning is easy. You get to, you know, you succeed, and enjoying that moment is great. You don't really learn a huge amount from that, but as I said, it's those low points that you do. So how after as I came out the race, and how I connected with my engineers, who all feel the pain that I'm feeling, I could just be down and bring everyone else down. Was how instead lift them up, you know, let them know that don't worry, we're going to work through this. There were these great things that happened this weekend. There's so many positives. So let's just discard the negative, and just try and work to make sure that doesn't happen again, you know. And so these guys are in here today, working flat out to make sure we win the next race.
Explain what your dad taught you about braking early on, and how that helps you even to this day.
So yeah, I'm generally known as one of the latest brakers, and that's most of the time you make is on the brakes. And basically, when we started racing, my dad would go around and he would stand on the track and see where the best drivers, the British champion was braking. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, if he was braking here for the corner that's over there, he would move further down the road, a couple meters further, and it's like, you got to brake here, not brake where he's braking. You got to brake further.
And so, what was how did he explain it to you at the time?
Well, he didn't explain it. It was like, my dad, when he said do something, you did it. As though like, and he said brake here. And if I go, yeah, I can't brake there. He's like, brake here. So I'd go around and I'd brake there and I'd spin off. And there's like a pond at the end there. So I ended up in the pond so many times and got completely drenched. Like I got a big puddle kind of thing. And
what did he say after that?
He's like, do it again. And just do it again. And I'd be like, I can't. Do it again. And eventually I could brake there, and that's quicker than everyone. and that's, I've generally had that since then. So always been a late breaker. That's what enables me to overtake. That's why I have the championships I have as part of that. That's a part of the many parts of the foundation of what a driver can do. But that's definitely a skill that you want to have.
I mean, how sore the driving will make your neck at times. What have you done over the years to strengthen your neck with the weight and the helmet and all of that?
Yeah, basically, most people I meet, particularly people that don't get to watch Formula One or who have just begun watching Formula One, or even like particularly in the States, when I go and meet people and they're like, I didn't know that I'll be talking to them and I say, I can lose 9-10 pounds in the race. And they're like, what? No way. I was like, I just thought you just sat there and just drove. Like,
you can lose 9 or 10 pounds in a race?
Yeah, sometimes I lose, like Malaysia, I always lose around 10 pounds in that race in an hour 45.
How does it?
I mean, I don't know, it's bloody roasting there.
Okay.
And it's humid, like 100% humidity. There's no cool air coming in, so you're on thermal underwear, suit, gloves, balaclava, helmet, and it's just like working out in the sauna for an hour and a half. And it's crazy. So there's like probably three races that it's 10 pounds, 9, 8 pounds, and then the other races are generally like 5 pounds. You lose through the race. But it's the physical G-force that we pull through all the corners. So you're pulling a multiple of your body weight. And to be able to hold your body up whilst you're having those forces pull on your legs and your core. And then afterwards you have all these pains in your body and your muscles, tense, tightness and all those kind of things. So you have to have a lot of physio. So that's what you have to work on. And the neck, when I first got to Formula One, I did 3 days of driving and I couldn't hold my head up after the halfway through the first day. And so what you do is I had a helmet and I put 22 pounds on top. And you lay off a table or a bench and you do multiple reps just to build your neck up. So my neck grew like 1.5 inches when I first got to Formula One. And then since then, at the end of the season, you only have 2 months off, it kind of shrinks. And then the next time it comes up. And so you're just conditioning, strength and conditioning.
Got to the sport, I was like, I've got to do everything I'm told. And now I don't do a lot of what I'm told. I think you were poolside in Thailand, you said, when contemplating the switch, and that was when you ultimately decided to make the move from McLaren to Mercedes. Yeah. What was it, poolside, that you thought about that made you decide to finally make the jump?
I kind of relate it to living at home, when you first move out and get your own apartment. And you take on those responsibilities on your own, that first step of independence. And I was in a team where I was very much a part of the family, They were protecting me in all sorts of ways and also controlling in a lot of ways. And to make a decision myself, no one influenced my decision to move. So I did all my due diligence myself and then came to the conclusion that this was the move for me. Whilst everyone said it was the worst thing that could die, worst decision, I've ruined my career, blah, blah, blah. And now we've won 2 world championships. But so it's quite satisfying in that respect. What I had to do is I made notes, the pros and cons of my options that I had. And there were good bits and bad bits about either way. Staying at McLaren, I thought that, the car that I've helped build and grow to where we are now, most likely.
You'd been there since you were a teenager.
Yeah, and we just missed out in 2012 World Championship, and with improved reliability, maybe we'd had a chance of winning the championship in 2013. So I was like, I could sacrifice that. I don't want to sacrifice the short term for the long term goal, and that's coming to this team, for example, that was like 5th best at the time, and help them grow to being the best. And but when I was I was in Thailand and I was by the pool, and it was the heat of the moment. I had to make the decision. Because, the slots available, McLaren was pushing me, Mercedes was pushing me for an answer. And I remember just sitting there, and for some reason I just came to a really peaceful moment. I was looking over the sea, the sun was setting. There was these really beautiful, like, little islands in the distance. And it just came to me. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And there was no nervousness about it. There was no, I'm in an RN, it just became clear. So I made a decision, called up the bosses and had to tell them which was the hardest thing to do.
What did you say?
Oh, it was horrible, because as I said, I was signed when I was 13, so I'd known Martin and Ron since I was 13, so I have to call them and say, I'm leaving, was difficult, especially when you could hear their voice, and because naturally it's painful for them to hear that, someone they've been with for so long, helped nurtured, helped get to Formula One. it's almost for sure a feeling of betrayal, but I think they understood that what I needed to do for me as a man, and I think they respected that.
How did you explain it?
Firstly, I started out just saying, this has been an incredible journey. Firstly, I want you to know how grateful I am for everything you've done to help me be where I am today. And I think, honestly, for me, the next step in my life is to take this next step of independence, to go to a team, to challenge, to take everything I've learned from you guys and in this experience, and take it to a new team and see if I can drive another car, see if I can turn another car into a world championship winning car with the team. And I think they understand, naturally I think at the beginning they perhaps didn't fully understand it, but I think afterwards, and then now, for example, when I speak to them, I think they understand. And to come here with no one knowing you, you have to put your skills to the test. You have to build new relationships. You have to be able to extract the most from a new car, from the new engineers and all that kind of stuff. That's been a great step in really finding just how good I am. Just not going out and driving a car. It's the stuff outside, which is really, I think, which really kind of molds and shapes.
In the States is looking at this and says, kind of looks like an Indy car. How do you explain the difference?
Firstly, it's way better than an Indy car. An Indy car it's just not as technical as this.
Right.
Even a NASCAR, it's a tin top. A NASCAR sounds fantastic, but it's heavy, it's chunky. They don't have buttons. It has not even probably half the technology as we have in this car. And this is the state of the art. There's this aerodynamic flow down the car like you cannot imagine. The force that it sucks the car to the ground.
This is like a rocket going around the turns.
It is, all these, basically the air, as you're driving, the airflow is coming over this car and underneath this car, and it just, the faster you go, the more it sucks to the ground. And so you can go through these corners that it's like going like a fighter jet going around a corner. It's insane.
I think one of the easiest ways to explain just how big Formula One is Formula One teams spend in a year what US NASCAR teams are worth. And what was interesting to me about Formula One cars, the steering wheel, I think there are 20 buttons on the steering wheel alone. And how often are you clicking buttons on here at any one time?
In every lap, you're moving. This is like a brake migration, which you're never going to understand that as. And then this is brake balance, so the percentage of balance you have on the front and the rear. So you're moving that from corner to corner. And then we have like engine braking. We have high-speed diff mid, diff entry. Diff exit is in here, and the multiple switch. And then there's all these different things. You have radio, you have, there's a ton of sensors on the car, and the team might ask you to have to turn off a sensor if it's failing, because it could be an engine or exhaust sensor, for example.
And that's common.
Yeah, and for example, if one fails because it gets too hot, it could lead to the fuel mixture being wrong and the engine blows up, for example. So they'll tell you have to turn that off.
Okay.
And so and then there's obviously engine strat, fuel usage. We only have 100 kilos to use on the race, so I've got to watch my fuel meter, fuel gauge, and judge when I use the power, when I don't use the power, when I save, when I don't save, and all those. And when I'm doing a pit stop, for example, you go to the more powerful setting for the in lap, and use more fuel. Then when you come out of the pit stop, you have to save that fuel again, and all these different.
How would you describe your style?
I generally have kind of more of a relaxed style. I would say I'm more kind of urban underground kind of streetwear. I like to wear maybe chic. I love wearing a suit. You know how good putting a suit is. It's like you feel so fresh once you got your nice watch on, got the bits to kind of show it off. There's nothing quite like wearing a crisp suit. But I like to wear jeans, and that's why exactly here. I had a lot of different looks I could, for example, wear today, but I love denim, and I generally just wanted to feel comfortable.
How's it evolved over the years?
The only way you can get into Formula One is if your shape fits the box, you know what I mean? It's not like you can be your own person and have your own character, have your own style. You have to be the same as everyone else. And that's so when I got into sport, that's kind of how I was molded to be. But I never felt comfortable. I never felt like I was in my own skin, so it's really over the last probably 5-6 years that I've really been able to come out my shell. And naturally I've got my roots in the sport. They can't really get rid of me. So then I can say what I want and do what I want. And so over the last years, I've just found my own style, feel more comfortable being me, and that's what you see today.
Hugo Boss, obviously your relationship with them now goes back years from McLaren,
Yep.
now Mercedes. Last year you were in a city campaign in cities ranging from Moscow to London to
Yep.
Shanghai. How about the campaign over the years that you've most enjoyed?
I think the campaigns thing that we've been doing, going to the different cities and getting to go around, I mean, it's not particularly a difficult job. It's kind of fun, because normally when I go to these cities, I arrive and I just work. I don't ever go and see what the city has to offer. So I never really have that much time. So I look at it like they've given me the opportunity to find a bit more about the culture when I go to those different places.
Explain the role that Hugo Boss has in shaping the look of the team.
It's quite a difficult role, I would say. In Formula One, fashion is not particularly something that many teams focus on. So I would say probably 97% look terrible. And unfortunately, because we have Hugo Boss, is the only the only fashionable company really that's there. There might be some others, but they're kind of irrelevant. So Boss is really, their job is to make all the team look as one. And this year we've kind of got a black look, which is just sleek. It looks great. The logo's all in white, so they pop out quite well. And I think the style is growing.
Obviously, here are a number of
I've not even seen these
magazines that.
Oh, nice.
I think this is a relatively new one.
Yep.
So what's involved with doing these sorts of shoots?
Well, I never actually ever did these before, but I love doing it. It's kind of you get on the creative side of things. It's finding looks. You get to work with different photographers. It's a different world to what I'm in here. Basically, I get called. Now all these magazines want me to be on the front cover and do shoots for them. So
you like it?
I never really enjoyed being on camera, but I come to realize that is a part of where I am and what my job is, and so
As a kid, and running into the then McLaren head.
Yeah, well, that was crazy because when you win a championship, it's kind of like our music awards, but in a much smaller scale and not as cool. It's actually not really fun. But I was 10. We didn't have money for a suit. We borrowed it from a family who the kid had gotten the previous year. So I had this green velvet suit that I borrowed from this kid, and my dad put together this little booklet with a space for an autograph, phone number, address, name, and all that kind of stuff. And we went round to. I went round. I didn't actually know. I knew of people, but I didn't know who was who by looking at their face. She's like, "Oh, that's so and so. That's so and so." So I'd go over and I'd say, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" and at that time, he said, "That's Ron Dennis, who owns the McLaren, and he builds Ayrton's car." And for me, bing, that's
Because
he's
that
my
was your
favorite
hero.
driver.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to go and see him. So I went up to him and I was like, "Yeah, one day I just won the British Championship, and one day I want to be in Formula One in your car and be world champion for you." 3 years later, he signed me, and then 10 years later, I won the world championship for him. So, kind of a cool story. And I still have that page. He said, "Phone me in 9 years, and I give you a deal."
You still have it?
Yeah, of course.
How well, if at all, do you remember getting into a go-kart for the first time on vacation in Ibiza?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you remember?
I mean, when we got to Ibiza, we rented my stepmom we rented 2 scooters, so we were going around the city.
And how old are you then?
Must have been 4 or 5.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in the middle of the seat, in between my dad's legs while we were riding around on this scooter, this moped. And then we found this little track, and just had 3 corners, and my dad put me in the go-kart. And I remember driving, and straight away, on this 5 laps, whatever laps I did, I picked up this braking technique, and it happened that braking technique I used my whole karting career, and So, you know, I was at home already in that. And then I didn't get to drive a go-kart until I was 7 after that, a couple of years later. Yeah, who would have thought that now I'll be driving for one?
What did you most enjoy about those Sunday morning remote control race car experiences?
I love that it was different. I love cars, toy cars, whatever it may be. It was something that I was good at. You know, I struggled at school. I struggled at everything else. And it was one thing that my dad, I could do and kind of, not show off, but like kind of, hey dad, look what I can do. You know, whichever kid wants to see your dad smile and be proud of you for something. That was the one thing that I knew that I could make him proud with. So I strive to do it as well as I could in every way possible.
Nico, born 2 months premature. I think he wasn't breathing when he came out. Doctors told your parents he would never be able to walk. What do you remember from finding out he had cerebral palsy?
Well, I was 7, so I mean, I didn't really understand that at the time. And when my brother was born, it was just, it was one of the greatest experiences for me, you know, having a young little, he just looked like a sack of spuds. You know, just a little fat thing. He was so chubby. Right. And he would just sit there and just never move. And it was just, you know, I loved growing up with him. And then, you know, when he was starting to get older, starting to do things with him, you know, having someone you love to play with, and naturally he would be all my races from a young kid, because we'd drag him around with us, and you know, now he's a great young man. He's 24. He's raced cars naturally because he wants to be a racing driver, because I'm a racing driver. Been around cars his whole life, and
I mean, that's what's cool about it too. I mean, he's similarly defied all odds.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's really, because yeah, he was told he wouldn't walk. He was told that he wouldn't be able to play drums. He was told he wouldn't be able to drive. All these different things, and I think he loves defying what people say you can't do, and that's exactly how I am, really. So we share that same thing in common.
And not to mention, I was looking at his Instagram yesterday. He's very open too about his experiences and how you know, it impacts his life. And
yeah, definitely.
Things
you know,
like
for
that.
me, watching my brother, you know, everything was easy for me as a kid, as it is for us. You know, walking around, playing football, playing basketball, doing whatever activity you want, fall over, get back up, all these different things. And for me, growing up watching this young kid with this difficulty, it was kind of hard to grasp. You can't imagine how hard it is for him, but I did understand, because I was with him all the time. So I'd see the tears, I'd see the way people look at him, I'd see the way other kids would look at him and treat him. And for me, being the older brother, just wanted to show him, you know, never give up. And then he inspired me as a young kid, just seeing him fall over when we're playing football, and it's easy for me to run around him with the ball. But like when we'd be playing basketball, I'd get in the wheelchair and battle with him, you know. But he never wanted it to be an issue. So he just always falls over, gets back up, and doesn't even worry about it. Just gets up and pushes along. So, you know, he's inspired so many people, not only with a disability but also without disabilities today. And just showing that anything is possible. You know, work hard for something and you can get there.
One of the things that impresses me most about you, aside from coming from nothing to all the success and breaking racial barriers and becoming a, you know, 3-time world champion, is that you're obviously on top now, and you're maintaining your level of excellence, all the while jet setting around the globe, singing in nightclubs, hobnobbing with celebrities, figuring out the next chapter of your life, whether that be fashion or music. How have you been able to find the balance?
Oh, it's taken a long time. I've been racing for 23 years, so it's a long time. And I guess really, I think it's just getting that inner peace, really, finding that equilibrium, you know, that works for you energy-wise, and balance with your training and your work and your social life and all that kind of stuff. When I got to Formula One, you know, from 8 to 25, I had very little social life. You know, it was literally racing, get to bed early. You know, I would avoid parties. I if friends wanted to go and do something, very rarely I'll do things, evening things, because I was like, I've got to get up and train. And it's kind of, you can be too, you can go too far sometimes. And I think it's really pulling it back a little bit, just enough that you can also, and then building a social life, having time with my family, having time with my friends. That has really helped me raise my game, because if you can be happy outside the car, and when you get to, and in the car, you can be twice the driver.
Take me through all the places you'll be over the next month.
Well, I haven't been home for a month. So I went to the Barcelona testing, and I came back to the UK. I went home for literally a day, then I flew out to Australia.
In home's Monaco? Okay.
Yeah. Then I flew out to Australia. I was in Australia for a week and a half. Then I went to New Zealand to Australia to Hong Kong to Bahrain to here. And I'm here for 3 days, and then I go to New York for 2 days, and then I go to Beijing. Then I go for 2 days, and then I go to Shanghai for 4 or 5 days, and then I go to Berlin, then I go to UK, then I go to LA, and then I go to Russia. So at some stage I'll go home.
How do you stay well rested?
Honestly, I don't know. I have my friends around me. They don't understand where I get the energy from, because I don't sleep a lot. I like.
How much do you usually sleep?
5 hours. Mm-hmm. And especially when I'm training twice a day. Often, like today, I won't train twice a day. I'll train this evening, because I literally just landed from Bahrain at 7 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
Drove straight here, and got a lot of stuff to do at the factory today. But yeah, I don't know. I just sleep when I can, but I can't sleep long. So if I go to bed at 10 o'clock, I'll wake up. I'll literally wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m. and I'll be in and out of sleep from then on. So what I do is I go to bed late, so I don't miss anything in my day. Mm-hmm. So I generally get to bed at like 12, 1, and then I wake up early, and I can't do anything but go and work out. So it actually works really well.
I want to go back to your schedule momentarily. I mean, just because it is global and ongoing, who plans it and how do you manage it?
I plan it, and my assistant manages it. I don't have a manager. I've fired all my managers. So I manage myself. I have my assistant. I have 2 assistants, and one assistant, she's been with me for 10 years, so since I've been in Formula 1. She's incredible. And then I've just got a new assistant like a year or so ago, and she's fantastic. She travels around with me. So those are my core team, and I just sit with them and I say this, slot this. And also what I decided to do was, rather than sign for a management company that has 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 acts, whatever, and get them part-time working for you. I was like, I'm going to take a bit of time and set my own little core team up that I hire, and they're focused on helping me build what I want to build, because I'm going to get there twice as fast. Otherwise, it's going to take twice, if not 3 times as long, with these other people who are focused on other people, you know what I mean? And I sit with them, and I get a list of all the different activities that are going on around the world, and I select which ones I want to go to. And I just make it work, and I love the fact that also with my job and at my age, I get to travel around, get to see these different cities, see different cultures, meet new people, and just enjoy it along the way. Don't get too serious about anything. Even though the weekend we had a race, and naturally when you're on the weekend, you're serious, but I don't get drawn down by the result.
You won your first championship. You said you didn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
Why not?
I didn't enjoy it at all.
How come?
I think it's kind of getting to Formula 1 was an incredible achievement for our family, It was so hard along the way. My dad had 4 jobs to even get me go-karting, and we were racing against all these rich kids, and to have walked away honestly, we had a real crap road car and crap trailer, and all these people had the flashy stuff, and we would arrive and we would knock them dead. And that was such a satisfying thing. And then we got to Formula 1, and the pressure was so intense. You know, the pressure, most of the pressure comes from myself to want to succeed. But when you first get to Formula One, the pressure to impress, the pressure to deliver above and beyond what people's expectations are. So I remember my first year, my boss was like, "Don't be surprised, you know, you're going to be about half a second off your teammate. He's a two-time world champion, but don't worry about it, you know." And I was like, "No way." And that just kind of, maybe he actually said it to fire me up, I don't know, but. And then, you know, I nearly beat him in the first race. I beat him in my third race, sorry. And that year I lost the world championship, which was really, you know, in front of so many, in front of so many people. Managing embarrassment, managing your emotions was really difficult. And the next year bounced back. And
why embarrassed though? I mean, here you are, your first year, you basically, you barely miss out on winning the championship.
Well, yeah, I understand, but I don't know. I mean, it's when you're in front of cameras, the emotions. You know, I'm a very emotional person, so you're put in front of cameras all the time. The highs and the lows. I'm just meaning that, not particularly embarrassment, but that experience was kind of a bit traumatizing in my first year at such a young age, and I wasn't prepared for media. I didn't have media lessons. How to speak to cameras, how to speak to people. I just arrived and I was thrown in the deep end without any lessons, you know, and I just handled it the best way I could. And I won the championship the next year, but again, really traumatizing because I lost it for a second, and then the last corner I got the championship. And also, you know, I had a lot of penalties given to me in those 2 years through no fault of my own, and just through some strange things that were going on in the business, and almost like anything to stop me from succeeding. So when I finally succeeded, it was a great feeling, but we just rolled on to the next year, and I think just also as I was 23, I guess I just wasn't mature enough to grasp everything that was going on and to go and enjoy it.